Hey everyone, for TeamJVS, it's boy Jedi Mike 7. We're here also with Sam to review the new film, The American Society of Magical Negroes. Yes, I did not stutter, and yes, this is not a joke. The American Society of Magical Negroes. This film, directed by Kobi Libii, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. It stars Justice Smith, Dave Allen Greer, Ann Lee Bogan, Tarver, Michelle Watkins, Aisha Hens, Tim Baltz, uh, Rupert Friend, and Nicole Byer. This film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival uh, back in January of this year, and now it's going to be releasing the time you guys see it on March 15th. Yeah, this film definitely by the title is going to be very provoking, but again, this film might not be the film you might actually think it's going to be compared to the title and everything. But yeah, we're gonna give our thoughts again, our non-spoiler review of it. And us as being African Americans, I think we have a stake to saying, how they accurately, address some issues of the magical Negro. So the synopsis of the film, it starts with say a young man gets recruited into a secret society of magical black people who dedicates their lives to making white people's lives easier. Although initially enamored with his new power, he begins to question the value of using supernatural means to do the very thing he felt obligated to do his whole life. So again, we've seen some. I know people. We've seen previous roles, obviously with Justice Smith. We see him, again in Pokemon and other shows as well. And I think he's a good actor. But also, we get an icon himself, David Allen Greer, playing a member of the American Society of Magical Negroes. But the whole trope is talking about black people who dedicate their lives to making white people lives easier. And for the sake of safety, humanity, whatever, keeping the peace, wherever you call it. But yeah, I'll give my thoughts on it. But see, Sam, what was just your overall thoughts when you first heard about this movie coming out? The title obviously being a little bit shocking but what was your thoughts on this before we get in detail?
I the title itself invoked me to be like, whoa, wait, what? That was exactly when I just even heard the title. And then when I saw the official trailer, I was very confused because I was kind of like, the movie can't be on this. Maybe it's something deeper. They're trying to hide something, and we just don't really know where this is gonna go, right? And so when I got done, when I started the movie, when I ended the movie, um, I was really kind of torn as to the purpose of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the biggest crux of this because there's a certain stigma that us as black people, like when we're dealing with a lot of different situations or situational awareness is a big thing. People will say, be street smart, be wise, put yourself in a good situation. But situational awareness is a really big thing. It's an actual thing that we have to process on a continuous basis. And they take that narrative and they fuse it with a group or society that is going and appeasing another race of people to try to maintain peace throughout everywhere. And if it's not maintained, if you don't act a certain kind of way, then it disrupts everyone. That's where this movie kind of like it can go one way left or right. I do have some things that I liked, and I do have some things I have some questions about more than
Mhm.
throwing it under the bus. I think questions is the biggest thing that I have when it comes to where the narrative was really going with this movie. Because the thing about it, in all honesty, like there's a certain interesting thing that happens with the love story in this one between Justice, his character, and I kind of was like, this is very intriguing because there are certain levels to that I actually thought was very fascinating, even in the Flash show. Like I was kind of like, Iris West, Barry Allen. This is an actual thing that you can kind of see, but it keeps on going back and forth, tethering, so to speak. I mean, if you look at the new Spider-Verse movie, some people get upset. Like, no, Miles Morales is not, like gonna be with her, and she's just a friend, quote unquote. But that's partly because there's some things going on the inside of certain people that invoke a negative response to like interracial relationships. And so again, the movie pivots against that in certain levels, and then sometimes it kind of promotes it. And I don't know. There are things that I thought was interesting, and the things I was like, I'm so confused. So when we go and dissect this is going to be very funny because I think the first time I'm talking to anybody about it.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I mentioned to my wife when I was, I was getting ready to prepare to interview the cast and the director of this film. It was and it was a very good opportunity too, because I think there's some things that they did good in this film in terms of the concept of it, of addressing issues. Obviously, using like an actor like David Allen Greer, coming from as a seasonal actor, but just also from a person from a generation to talking to a African American person from our generation currently, but also someone who's mixed too. There's a conversation that needs to be had about how generationally the tropes of Black people being passed down, whether by choice or by circumstance. And I think they did a really good job in terms of having that dynamic between them, because you also understand where he's coming from, time where he was growing up and certain decisions that he had to make or not make because of his circumstances. And then here we are with the main character played by Justice. And and also I can say this, there's a lot of things relatable I had, off rip when the film was starting out too, because again, always being the Black friend or whatever, or the friend that was always being told, like, when racial situations were happening, they would look to me like, hey, was this bad? Was this really offensive? Whatever. Or telling me, whether intentionally or unintentionally, telling me how I'm supposed to feel about Blackness, even though they're not a African American, or no, so they can feel comfortable, or me just questioning how they're behaving around me, some things they say, whatever. And then they perceive it like, no, I didn't say it like that. I no, whatever, and kind of dumbing down the situation, which that is something that is common with a lot of African Americans. And I think again, having that in there just off rip, certain moments like in this art gallery, when you're just basic human interaction and social cues and stuff, there's things that definitely are relatable and are not make believe. They exist. I've experienced it. You definitely probably experienced it. But yeah, that's some of the things I like about this, and I do felt that it was important to emphasize the interracial relationship. Is that when you have that relationship, how it conflicts with terms of your Blackness, when it also conflict with people around you, especially in the Black community, in terms of how about responsibilities, about too, and everything. I know you and I were both married, to Black women, but however, like I've dated white women before, and I've definitely experienced that, you know, cold-heartedly about also being overly apologizing, too, that Justice character exhibits a lot. So, and I'm glad they addressed that. 'Cause again, it's relatable. I mean, I get it, and to talk about the magical Negro, this character that we only see not just in film, media, and life, whatever, and which is a continuous trope for them throughout history. But I guess it's never been dissected in this way, where it's like it becoming some type of satire, comedy or whatever. And now how we feel about the execution of that, well, we'll get into that in terms of our negatives on that. But Sam, what was your things you felt that felt like cons that they could have worked on, and or maybe what you want big issues with the film, uh, that maybe not we might probably not received it fully.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about a major con. I'm gonna talk about some positives too, but I have
Yeah,
a major con that, in my personal opinion, I don't think that they had to be magical at all. I think that the writer director could have literally just had a society of Black people that felt that if we could vote ourselves to doing this, that it will possibly preserve preservation of life of Black people moving forward. Because being overly aggressive isn't going to work. Being your own specific self isn't going to work. So maybe if we're ultra apologetic in a certain kind of way towards this other race of people, that it is going to possibly preserve more life. the thing that they really miss the mark to me is when it comes to the magic. They do not do a good job of showing the way that the magic works, the purpose of magic. It just does not work personally. I think
Mhm.
that this was a real missed opportunity. I think they use that as a tagline, but if you really look at it, like look at all the different magical stuff, it really doesn't help the story arc because there are certain moments in the movie where I never forgot. Like there was one black dude, like he was like working with the CEO and he grabbed something and I was like, first of all, bro, no, no, that's unnecessary. Like, don't show me this. I don't need to see this because I don't want anybody to even think that they have to go to those louder levels because we've suffered so much more, And so I
Right.
think that you tag in a moment like if it actually did happen, a person did that, don't make it magic. Don't allow it to be a magical thing. This has to be something that's a little bit different. And so I think that the way that they use the concept of magic in this, it just doesn't work. It's not flashy, it doesn't really show anything, and they don't do a good job of kind of setting the scope and the stance of how it actually looks in this movie. But the positive is I think honestly I think the actors are committed. Like I think David is killing it. I
Yeah.
think Justice in the way that he is divided. I think that there's a very interesting evolution of Justice because in the very beginning it's like he's a nerdy dude. He's just trying to do him, and then he's presented with this amazing opportunity to go and do something he's never done before, and then he has to make a real rational choice about what he should be, magic aside, who he should be. And I thought that that was a very invoking thing, and it actually worked because him and the
Mhm.
actress that plays the love interest, they have actual chemistry, so it actually worked. But there are scenes where he's interacting with the person that he's supposed to be targeting, and some of those scenes are actually really good. The last scene on the stage, I think was very important. Like I think that's gonna miss the mark because a lot of people at that point are already checked out. But if you're really listening to the lens of how that discussion started and how it worked out, he really, in all my opinion, fulfilled the assignment because there was a learning experience there. There was something that was invoked in a response, and it wasn't just cookie cut. It wasn't even magic involved. It was a real conversation. And then there was another scene outside where he has with the love interest. That was another real conversation. These moments actually happen to people. And
Mhm.
I think those moments are done really well because it's so natural. And maybe the actors or maybe it's where they were written, but everything between that was just goofy, corny, and it just didn't work. And I think the pivot is really the magic. The magic makes no sense of why you have to even use that as a plot point, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I understand in terms of the trope of black girl magic and all that stuff and saying that but again, I think it's also a concept that might have been overly complicated, and but also because I'll be honest with you, like I saw what they were trying to do in this movie better in another movie that's nominated for Best Picture, which is American Fiction, because that story, no magic, no, just basic human story, but gives the same concept that they are addressing about blackness and how the world, I guess, in different metrics, Hollywood people interact with the black stories, or just in it and also people's acceptance of that. But again, I just feel like this film. I think a lot of people are gonna check out with this, but you're right. I felt like there didn't need to be no magic in there, but I felt again David Allen Greer and this cast and stuff like are I've seen so much of them in very like fantastical roles. Obviously, like in Blank Man and and other other fantastical films, the past Pokemon, I mean Detective Pikachu, like stuff like that. But I'm like, let me
Yeah,
just
Dungeons and
just see them
Dragons.
in
Right. He
like
was the mage in Dungeons and Dragons. He was the
right.
Dungeons and Dragons mage.
Right, and I would just like to see this in see them just as regular people. Again, 'cause I thought the strength of this was actually, I thought the love interest, definitely acted in a performance, especially when she's in the workplace interaction with her boss, which is are very common issues that are addressed. But I thought she was delivering that in a great way. Again, just of a non African American person still dealing with racial issues, or just also just corporate, things of moving up in the company. The racial also like biases, and also again non-racial biases too, because there's situations where a friend group is in there where some person says something that's really sketchy, and then they have a whole scene about, hey, why'd you say that? That was kind of, whether it was racist or that was kind of inappropriate. But then also how some people were quiet in those moments. It wasn't until later be like, yeah, he said that. That was kind of pocket. I should have said something. I'm sorry. But like, and so, but I think that could have been so powerful if the
Right.
magical stuff was out of it and
Right.
that was explored more. Because again, like I keep going back to American Fiction did a great better job of this, because like again, the best moments of that film really was the dialogue. And I felt this film, the best moments are the dialogue of these people just having conversations and social interactions instead of the whole magical aspect of it. Um, but now there could have been ways where just visually they could have just
Oh yeah.
explain the magical Negro trope in many different, probably in a comedic way. There's many ways you could have done that, but yeah, visually, yeah, I was kind of like taken off by just terms of how it was executed.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I will say this: I think honestly, this film would have been better, honestly, if you want to get trope on the magical Negro throughout film, media, or life, whatever. This could have been a great, documentary, documentary series or something like that to, deconstruct, and this time, in the '80s, this is where the magical Negro, how he evolved now, or something like that, right? That's something that'd be very interesting. But and also maybe not call it magical Negro, but just call it the black stereotype of trope, but um because again, then there's other terms that we can use, like you know, especially Boondocks made a joke about it too. So it's like it's again
Dude.
it's something that is known. It definitely needs to be addressed. But I just term the execution of how it's being portrayed, I think it's going to lose its message by
Yep.
most people, unfortunately. But I honestly do believe that me interviewing, the director and the cast, like they definitely will come in with good intentions, though. But I just think it's more how you want to deliver that message. That's not that it can be received the best way possible. Because it is going to be some pushback. There's already people when the title came out. It's like, oh yeah, this is garbage, woke garbage, whatever, woke, whatever. But it's there's also parts to play like, okay, well, didn't it have to go down this route? Because some people might just roll their eyes when they're even watching this film.
Mhm.
And there's other films like, hey, you need to see this, even though it involves you, but it's not saying like you're the villain. You're just in the system of this game that we've been playing for many different years and stuff. And then here we can go provide a solution through this storyline and how these people are interacting with each other. So yeah, I think that was the part that really was a negative for me. But again, I said Dave Allen Greer. I mean, no, he was the best part of this film for me. Again, it's just in terms of his relationship with Justice's character, and then also Justice. I felt like uh, he did a very good job of displaying relatability, to his character, just being just a average man, that's existing in this everyone else's story, but we're focusing on him.
Yep.
So I think that again, I think they did a really good job with that. But they never really talk about the American, like American Society of Magical Negroes, the society itself. Like, how did you feel, like even certain characters that were portrayed in there? Like,
Yeah, I think that the thing is, David R. Greer, his character in this, because Justice's character is named Aaron. They were having a conversation about David's dad, and that was a very powerful moment. Um, and I think that could have really, if I don't want to say this rudely, if they would have took that as a pivot and they just flashed back for a second, right? and you watching him as a kid having to see through a certain lens as opposed to using exposition, it would have made you really rally behind why David's character thinks this way and why he feels like this is the best way, but also maybe why he's conflicted as far as Aaron's perspective, because he's supposed to be one of the strongest magical Negroes. But how am I supposed to know that? We see
Right.
early
Right.
for him, being cunning, but again, that's street smart. You know what I'm saying? Like, if for us, it's like, oh, you ain't reading the room right, kid. Like, let me show you how to handle this. And it's no powers involved in this. In all honesty, I hate to say it, all the people that are supposed to be these magical Negroes, or even like the way that Aaron got inducted into the magical Negroes, it just went so fast. They didn't really give different layers to who the upperclassmen were. They didn't really show you a hierarchy system of how they do things. And I think it just really didn't work. Honestly, I feel like Dave Chappelle would have taken like an episode
Absolutely.
with this concept and made it way more either funny or engaging to make you think, because I think that the message, I could see it because I watch film on a regular basis. And like Mike said, like American Fiction like did this so much better because they took their time of what they wanted this to be about. And again, I said I questioned what this was supposed to be, because everything about the society, every single member of the Society of Negroes outside of David's character, I had no attachment to, I could care less about. And there wasn't, even when you got to the person that's the head person, he just
Yes.
made it a stupid joke. And so there was no urgency to me to want to be like, oh yeah, now I believe, they maybe make me dare to believe that they might be right, or what they're doing has made some kind of impact. I didn't. I was like, no, Aaron, and I hate to say this too, like as far as cinematography and visuals, it didn't really have anything. Soundtrack really didn't have anything. I mean, score was, it was nothing really there. The meat and potatoes of this film are the actors, and it was really few actors, and the conversations that they have. We've seen movies this year in 2023, like Past Lives, for instance, just off of that. You don't got to have no magic, you don't got to got no action. Just give us good dialogue that makes us process and think and connect. If I can't connect with this hierarchy of magical Negroes, or with any of these specific characters that are put through around the arc of this, then I'm just gonna check out, because they set up so many different situations where these black people, and again, it's not even so much, me being offended by these black people catering to these white people to make things
Right.
more passive. If you can plausibly make sense of it, I will at least listen, because there's another movie that came out last year, Origin. Some people don't get behind that caste system. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it was enough of a good, rich story that made me think and ponder and enlighten me to be like, you know what? Let me think about it. Let's talk about this for a second. American Fiction did the same exact thing. So unfortunately, it's just, I think this was a missed opportunity. But I think that the thing that messed this up, if they would have just removed magical Negroes in general, it's just maybe a society of black people that chose to do this, that would have been more interesting. That would have been so much more interesting. Not to say they like a cult, but a society of black people that just decide like, this is the way we got to run things and take it very seriously. Dog, did you ever take anything that they were doing seriously? Because I didn't.
No.
I never took, like, David was the only one that sold me some of the time.
Right.
But then he had made a sentiment was like, yo, Aaron, no, like it's fine. Like you can date this white woman. But if you go off of the premise of where they're talking about, how could he really date somebody that he has to cater to and be a certain kind of interdependency on? I was like, how can he, like, again, the math don't math when you do certain stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to trash anymore on it, but I did want to talk about it for sure.
Well, no, because again, go back to that Dr. Umar mentality, of again, like, um, again, like you can date them. It's something with mamas, black mamas, or something like that, where they all have this old saying like, "Hey, you can date them, you mess with whatever, but when it comes to married, you better bring a black woman to my house or something like that." So, but again, it's talking about what this film was trying to display. Like you're right, I didn't take anything what they were doing seriously, but then I also don't want, as a critic, I don't want to come across saying like the point of this movie was meaningless. I don't want to say that because I absolutely get what they were trying to do, and I do believe it matters. However, not only have seen this done better, I've seen this as a way where you could have done something very unique with the cast you had
Yeah.
in a different environment to
Yeah.
give the same message that you're trying to. However, I feel that's kind of getting lost with the shock value of like, oh, we're gonna piss some people off today. American society, magical Negroes, take it. Cool. But if your point is actually trying to educate, and I think Kobi again, I think this definitely when I interview him, he's definitely passionate about this. There's no denying that at all. And I do also believe like when he's coming to in terms of his perspective, he has a lot to give in terms of dynamics between people, different races, and also just the issues what we deal with, also with mixed people, or relationships with us as Black people, our identities of ourselves, but also how we respond to societal standards and everything like that. Again, when I interview him, he definitely is passionate and very knowledgeable. However, I think that when he's moving forward in terms of his next project, which I know I look forward to see, I think that he needs to. I feel no don't overcomplicate it in the way it needs to be because like you have the passion, you have the knowledge. I think you got to do a better job of the execution of like, okay, what environment am I putting these characters that I'm creating? So way that this message I believe that matters and that people need to hear that this story is going to cultivate them, that people can relate and care about these characters.
Yeah.
So way that the message matter and the message is received. Again, doesn't matter anything, just the concept alone, people are not going to receive it. But for the folks who actually are interested and maybe are coming from a place of ignorance and they're looking for, hey, I don't never knew about this. I never knew about the black trope of movies and stuff, right? And so because you were never taught it, and you thought, oh, there was no issue,
Mhm.
and now here's a story that's bringing light, like, wow, let me look at this. Again, so and I think I think for me a solution that they can provide he can provide moving forward, in terms of the next project. But
Yeah.
again, now in terms of rating, Sam, what would you give rating of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna preface it like this. Last year we saw a movie called The Blackening. Well, I saw a movie
Yes,
much
yes,
earlier. I saw it at a film festival, but then it came out officially. We were able to talk with the cast and stuff like that. That movie was very self-aware. It knew exactly what it was. There was no question in the way that they would take a certain serious things, but they also are going off every single black trope on horror movies, right? And so I even though I completely understood it, I had my critiques and thought about certain things about that. And I'm gonna say for me with this, like I'm going down all the way through the line because I want to make sure I don't just give this a pass. Like I don't want to be like, oh, okay, this is cool. No, I want us to get it completely right. Like I want us to go and for the best part that we can move forward. And I think that this movie is important. I think that the certain things about it that I think do work, but I think unfortunately the message is going to get missed with a lot of different people. That's the biggest thing. From me as a critic, I didn't get out of this movie saying, "Oh, this is freaking terrible." But I was very confused and I was questioning a lot of things. And the very last 10 seconds of the movie also I felt was it it made it funny kind of, but it lost the message that we were trying to go down this line. I'd rate this at a C minus right now. As far as from A to F, this is at a C minus to C. Um, I wanted a lot better from this, but at the same as that time, I also knew what I was getting into. But I do think that we need to continue to try certain different things like this because it could land a mark next time. It could be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna trigger something, and maybe that was the point. Maybe they wanted to be like, well, magic. How do we go and get and tap somebody that thinks about like magic and magicians, and that be the selling point to make some people think. But you also have to round it out and make sure that it works on both sides. So C to a C minus for me.
Yeah, I think I give a B on concept and message, but kind of C or C minus on the execution delivery. Again, because again, I don't think that this was a film that didn't need to be made. I think this is something that's interesting that could be give opportunity for audiences to learn, be aware of, right? But again, it kind of gets to like swamp under the umbrella. People might be saying whether it's woke or whatever, but instead of actually educating people on something that concept that we know as body of African Americans, but a lot of people, most general audience or Americans don't know. But they're just being blinded by seeing multiple movies and seeing the same black character, stereotypical character. So when we're trying to break those stereotypes, there can be stories to highlight the the self-awareness of of us as black people, but also the ignorance of white people too, or society, I should say, because it's not just, I don't want to say just white people can be ignorant. Anybody can be ignorant. Black people can be ignorant of this issue. So
Yep.
again, so that's a thing. So, but yeah, I give that basically around like a C, around in terms of this film. But again, it's not about what we think, what you guys think. In terms of the American Society of Magical Negroes, which is coming in theaters in March 15th this year. Again, we'll be reviewing more stuff coming to you very shortly and stuff. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, comment, like, and share. Again, you can subscribe to JVS Media Production LLC or Team JVS on YouTube. And also you can find me on YouTube here and also on Jenna Mike 7 on YouTube and Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff, and maybe TikTok for the short time being. We'll see. But anyway, we'll see you guys. We ain't gonna stop. Peace.
Falling off the top of